All right, so I need to explain myself. I haven't had the camera on for the last 2 days while doing stuff. I got the bottom bracket out and I had to improvise. This is a Stronglight 49D based on my research. It is a aluminum alloy crankset. It's a very lightweight, very nice quality crankset from the early 70s. I was really hoping I could salvage it, and I think I'm gonna be able to. However, most cranksets made after 1984 use a 22 millimeter crank puller for the threads right there. The puller is supposed to thread in, and then you thread the center bolt down until it pushes against the bottom bracket and pulls the crank arm off, right? Well, this is not a standard 22 millimeter thread. It is a 23.35 millimeter diameter 1 millimeter pitch thread. So I had to find this tool, and they're available. I got this on Amazon for 15 bucks. There's a bunch of places that make them. Problem is, someone in the past messed up the threads. So the retaining bolt for this is a 16 millimeter hex bolt. To get in there, you need a thin wall socket. If you use an impact socket or a socket with too thick of a wall, it won't make it in there to get that bolt, and you'll end up smashing these threads, which someone did in the past. So as a result, I was unable to use and slightly marred my puller. So I had to improvise. See that car right there? About 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, I replaced the drain plug because it was leaking. The drain plug is the exact same diameter as the puller tool, plus or minus maybe a half a millimeter or millimeter. I put this in my bench vise down on the floor, and then I set the bottom bracket shaft to support it on the drain plug. With this upside down and now this sitting in here like that, I was able to go around and I tapped on, you can see the tap marks. I used a wooden dowel, went around and tapped around the inner face of the crank until it gently popped off. To get the other one off, I used this as a punch. And basically what I did was I set a piece of metal in between the loose crank arm and the bottom bracket. And by putting that piece of metal in there, I was able to stop the axial movement of the crank arm. And then I could use the punch, the drain plug, to knock the shaft out of the arm. So at that point, I was able to thread out the cups, get that arm removed. That's not damage, it's just gunk, okay? So I'm going to reuse this. I don't plan on ever getting rid of this bike. And the bottom bracket's in good condition, so I'm gonna reuse it too. I'll polish these up and we'll go from there. The other thing I wanted to explain that I didn't film is trying to remove this freewheel. This is an Italian Regina 5-speed freewheel. Unfortunately, the freewheel is seized to the hub. So I have been trying to get it off using the Suntour 2-notch freewheel remover, because at one point in history there were 2 notches here. Now this is not the correct tool for this particular freewheel. It's a similar size, but this is not a Suntour, and there's actually a Regina 2-notch tool, but I can't find it anywhere in the United States right now, and I don't really feel like waiting a month for it to show up from Italy or France, where I keep finding them on eBay and Amazon. I also don't want to pay duties on that tool, so I tried to make use of my Suntour tool. As you can tell, the freewheel has stripped out. That's of no fault of the tool. That is because this is seized in place. And in case you're wondering, yes, I did use a 7-inch bolt and washers to clamp the tool down, and then I put this upside down with the remover tool in my bench vise and tried to use the leverage of the wheel to turn it, but it's just stuck. So I'm going to try to remove this using heat. I'm going to try to clamp around it. So I'm going to end up replacing this freewheel. It's a fairly common Italian freewheel that was used with Campagnolo drivetrains. So hopefully I can salvage this hub. I really want to salvage this hub. If I can't, that sucks, because I don't want to build a wheel, and this rim is in excellent condition, even though it's tarnished and dirty. But I've kind of polished up some spots, and it seems to be cleaning up really nicely. So I really want to be able to reuse this wheel without building a new one or replacing the hub. So that's where we're at now, and we'll see how this continues to go.